Today, an FDA approval in chronic lymphocytic leukemia, regulatory activity in non-small cell lung cancer, an expanded approval sought for pediatric acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and a missed endpoint in a Phase 3 study for glioblastoma multiforme. Hello and welcome to OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. The FDA has approved ibrutinib for the frontline treatment of chronic lymphocytic leukemia. The approval is based on data from the Phase 3 RESONATE-2 trial, in which ibrutinib improved progression-free survival by 84%, compared with chlorambucil in previously untreated patients with CLL, or small lymphocytic leukemia. At a follow-up of 18.4 months, the median progression-free survival had not yet been reached with ibrutinib versus 19 months with chlorambucil. The 24-month overall survival rates were 98% versus 85% respectively. Ibrutinib was also found to significantly improve bone marrow function. The FDA previously approved ibrutinib for pre-treated patients with CLL, pre-treated mantle cell lymphoma, and Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia. In a statement regarding the approval, lead investigator Dr. Jan Berger, an associate professor at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, said, "People living with CLL who have not been previously treated now have an option that significantly improved progression-free survival when compared to the oral chemotherapy used in the RESONATE-2 trial. The results seen in the RESONATE-2 clinical trial are truly compelling and make this medicine an attractive first-line treatment option for clinicians in the hematology space." The FDA has accepted a supplemental new drug application for pembrolizumab as a treatment for patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer in PD-L1 expression on more than 1% of tumor cells. The application is based on data from the open-label Phase 2-3 KEYNOTE-010 trial, in which pembrolizumab demonstrated an improvement in overall survival compared with chemotherapy. In the study, patients were randomized in a 1:1:1 ratio to receive the FDA-approved dose of pembrolizumab, a larger experimental dose of pembrolizumab, or docetaxel. Median overall survival was 10.4 months with the FDA-approved dose of pembrolizumab, 8.5 months with docetaxel, and 12.7 months with the higher dose, representing a 39% reduction in the risk of death versus docetaxel. The sNDA is meant to provide supporting evidence to convert the accelerated approval granted to the medication in October 2015 to a full indication. Additionally, the new data could lessen the PD-L1 expression threshold to more than 1% of cells. A standard FDA review is scheduled to last 10 months. The Committee for Medicinal Products for Human Use has given a positive recommendation to afatinib as a treatment for patients with advanced squamous cell non-small cell lung cancer following progression on platinum-based chemotherapy. The recommendation, which states that the treatment should gain approval from the European Medicines Agency, is based on data from the Phase 3 LUX-Lung-8 trial, in which second-line afatinib reduced the risk of both disease progression and death by 19% compared with erlotinib. At a median follow-up of 18.4 months, the overall survival with afatinib was 7.9 months compared with 6.8 months with erlotinib. PFS was 2.6 months versus 1.9 months with afatinib and erlotinib, respectively. Objective response rates were similar between the two arms at 6% with afatinib and 11% with erlotinib. Additionally, more patients reported an improved overall health-related quality of life with afatinib. Afatinib is currently approved in Europe and the United States for the first-line treatment of EGFR-positive patients with advanced non-small cell lung cancer. The FDA is also reviewing the LUX-Lung-8 data for U.S. approval of afatinib in the second-line setting. A supplemental biologics license application has been submitted to the FDA to expand the approval of blinatumomab to include the treatment of pediatric and adolescent patients with Philadelphia chromosome-negative relapsed or refractory B-cell precursor acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The application is based on data from the single-arm study 205, in which blinatumomab induced complete remission in a clinically meaningful number of pediatric patients with relapsed refractory ALL. The multi-center dose-finding efficacy trial accrued patients aged less than 18 years with refractory disease that has relapsed at least twice or has relapsed after an allogeneic stem cell transplant. All patients in the trial have completed therapy and are being observed for long-term outcomes. According to Amgen, the developers of blinatumomab, data from this trial will be submitted for publication. In glioblastoma multiforme, treatment with rindopepimut plus temozolomide failed to improve overall survival in patients with newly diagnosed EGFR V3 positive disease. According to findings from the Phase 3 ACT-4 study, the median overall survival with rindopepimut plus temozolomide was 20.4 months compared with 21.1 months with temozolomide and a control. Because of this data, the study was discontinued according to Celldex Therapeutics, the developer of the immunotherapy agent. The rindopepimut combination showed overall survival data similar to the expectations in the Phase 3 study, while patients in the control arm significantly outperformed. Earlier studies, such as the Phase 2 REACT study, showed a significant improvement in OS with rindopepimut, culminating in a breakthrough therapy designation from the FDA in February 2015. Anthony Marucci, co-founder, president, and chief executive officer of Celldex, said in a statement, "We are extremely disappointed for patients that the ACT-4 study was not successful. While this is certainly not the desired outcome, we remain steadfast believers in the power of immunotherapy to transform the future of cancer treatment." Celldex did say rindopepimut would continue to be offered in the Phase 3 trial and compassionate use programs. PER's 33rd Annual Miami Breast Cancer Conference is taking place this week. The conference aims to educate attendees about novel treatment approaches and state-of-the-art treatment strategies for patients with breast cancer. In this clip, Gina Columbus interviews a breast cancer expert on one of the major topics to be discussed during the meeting.
A hotly debated decision by the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force in January called for an individualized approach to routine mammograms for asymptomatic women under 50 years old and biennial testing for women aged 50 to 74 years. We discussed the recommendation with Dr. Patrick Borgen, who is chair of the Department of Surgery and head of the Brooklyn Cancer Center at Maimonides Medical Center, and chair of the Miami Breast Cancer Conference. Dr. Borgen expresses his strong opposition to the breast cancer screening guidelines and belief that annual mammograms must remain a standard in clinical practice. What is your stance on these recommendations? How do you feel about it, and how do they actually differ from the 2009 recommendations?
Right, so I am vehemently opposed to these recommendations. I think these recommendations are based on two problems. One is that they incorporate trials which were deeply flawed, which really don't tell us what we need to know about screening. The second problem with the recommendations is that they use survival as the endpoint. And there are other endpoints which are equally or more important. The fact that a woman can have a delay in diagnosis but get chemo, radiation, mastectomy is not consolation. Women want less treatment, less disfigurement, less chemotherapy, less radiation. And what gives us the best chance for that is early detection and early diagnosis. And these guidelines are a step in the wrong direction from early detection.
And that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for watching OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. We'll see you next time.